What's up, guys? It is David from CrossFit North, and I got Jason G. How do you say your last name?
Gearheart.
Just like it sounds.
Yep.
Or just like it's spelled.
That's right.
From My Vital 6, and that is spelled out or not spelled out?
Yeah. Company's called Vital 6. Website is My Vital 6, and it is spelled out, so no number.
S-I-X.
That's right.
That kind of 6. Okay, guys, and we are sitting here talking about. We've talked. He and I have talked a lot about what is Vital 6 and how it kind of fits into the framework that CFN has already created. And we talked a lot about with you guys recently about vision and mission and values. We've talked about our values: strength, longevity, and freedom. Our vision of creating a tribe of strong, healthy humans living life on their terms. And I kind of wanted to just sit down with you and talk to you in front of the people about what it is that your vision is for Vital 6 and how it is that kind of fits in with what we're doing here.
Yeah, totally. My story kind of starts with, I had chronic low back pain as a kid and even chronic knee pain growing up. And, I kind of went through the whole medical model. And as I got into college, I got really interested in physical therapy and the applications of physical therapy. And what ended up happening is when I graduated, I just found that I actually, even though I got into this field to help people, I wasn't doing a very good job of actually helping people. And not that the medical model, it's just a tougher model. And so when I created Vital 6, my goal was to provide real solutions for people who want to stay active and healthy and maintain their longevity as they get into the later stages of their life. And so, CrossFit has been a huge, proponent in pushing that kind of model as well, and that's where David and I link up.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of been my vision so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that for those of you, for those of us who may have not experienced physical therapy through the traditional medical model, can you talk a little bit about like some of the frustrations with the traditional medical model?
Yeah, I think, every company starts and they try it, it's just, it's based on reimbursement from the insurance companies. Yeah. So, in order to stay profitable and stay in business, these companies have to come up with,
watered down.
Yeah, maybe watered down. I don't even want to say watered down, but just to survive, they have to come up with different models that maybe aren't as beneficial towards the patient as they could be. Yeah. And everyone's in this to do a good job. It is just how do we make money and create a good living for ourselves while we're doing it.
Absolutely.
And that's where the fine line becomes difficult. So if you haven't been to the traditional physical therapy model, sometimes you may find yourself with multiple patients. You might find that your physical therapist is documenting while they should be watching you do your exercises. You might find they're stressed out because they're so busy on trying to keep up with productivity, and it just creates an environment that doesn't always best serve the patient.
Absolutely. And I think that it kind of echoes what it is that we look to do here at CrossFit North End, which is provide feedback and guidance to every single person who comes through here. And when you start watering it down, or like you said, having too many people at one time that you can actually provide a good amount of feedback and guidance to, it makes it almost it's not detrimental because it's still beneficial, but it's not nearly as helpful as it possibly could be. And another thing that you and I have talked about a lot is I think traditional physical therapy is geared towards getting people back into the place that they were before the injury happened, which is a good model for a lot of folks, especially like if you're dealing with acute something or other, like if you got in a car accident or let's say you were playing football and you got slide swiped and you got your knee almost dislocated and you have ACL, MCL injuries, like those are beneficial things because typically it wasn't something that you were doing movement-wise that caused it. But for a lot of individuals who are coming through and coming from like a movement background, who have something that might be acute, but really it was brought on by, let's say, a chronic movement issue. And like we've talked about before in some of our videos about if we lack the ability to get our hands up over our heads without any load and we start forcing ourselves into that position over and over again, we're asking ourselves for like a repetitive stress injury, essentially. Sure. The more inflammation that we have build up over time, the more likelihood that is going to cause something that's going to be like major impact.
Totally.
And those models of physical therapy, like if you say that I was doing that exact same thing and then I had some sort of strain or tear or whatever it was that I was sent to a traditional model, they wouldn't take into account, they typically don't take into account the movement that you had beforehand that led to the issue. By
Sure.
definition, the physical therapy model is I'm going to put you back the way that you were before the injury occurred.
Sure.
And a lot of times, the way that we were before the injury occurred is what created the injury.
Sure.
Specifically, again, in this field, again, if you're in a car accident or you were playing baseball and you got
Sure.
hit in the head with a baseball, like that's a different situation. But for movement-based pathologies, I think that there's a tremendous benefit to having an individual who is looking at how you move, looking at kind of holistically how you move, looking at it through a lens of like, what are you going to be doing with these limbs that you're going to be taking over into this other side, and you're going to be doing back squats, and you're going to be doing thrusters, and you're going to be doing pull-ups, and you're going to be doing snatches, and all these different types of movements. Looking at it through that lens is, I think, in my opinion, much more beneficial than the lens of, well, you just shouldn't do those things.
Sure. Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that's a lot to unpack. But totally, I think we're really, the model in itself is really reactive in a sense, where we're not being as proactive. And then, kind of like you said, the application of physical therapy to CrossFit and certain types of things you want to get back to. There's probably not a lot of physical therapists or companies that are trying to bridge the gap or look at what are the demands of what you're going to be doing in here and how can we get you back to that rather than how can we just get you back to walking or your daily activities. And both are very important, obviously, but we want to live and we want to do things, and it's very possible for a lot of people that are dealing with either nagging injuries or chronic injuries. I think you just have to find the right person.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are like physical therapy, CrossFit, preventative maintenance, you might think of like Dr. Kelly Starrett from like Becoming a Supple Leopard. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he's done a great job of like promoting the idea that we need to be aware of these things. And if you've bought the Becoming a Supple Leopard book, there are great tenets in there to get you started. But I will always hold that without some other knowing eyes to be able to like take you through kind of a litmus test of, first of all, experience, but also learning. You're going to be kind of operating with one hand tied behind your back. Or maybe even you're trying to do a snatch, a barbell snatch with one hand tied behind your back. Like,
sure.
You're kind of setting yourself up to be aware of your own biases, to be aware of your own, like, I think this is the issue, so that's the thing that I'm going to continue to smash. And it's like, maybe that's the issue. Maybe that's the root cause, and that's really where we should be going. Or maybe that's just a symptom of what you're dealing with.
Sure.
And so there's nothing, I guess, that we're talking about here that's like brand new. I think that the biggest thing is that you bring the physical therapy mindset with like trying to get people back to the place that they're able to do what they want to do on a daily basis, pain-free, and as well as they possibly can. And I think that lines up perfectly with the strong, healthy humans who are living life on their terms. At the end of the day, I don't want anybody to feel like they can't do something because of whether that be a physical limitation, like they don't feel like they have the metabolic capacity to hike a mountain, or I don't feel like that I have the strength to ever do a pull-up. I don't want them to have that physical limitation, but I also never want them to have the physical limitation that is, if only my knee wasn't hurting so badly, sure, I'd be able to walk around and enjoy Disneyland with my kids. Like, those are things that
sure, I
feel like need to be addressed just as much as the physical limitation side of just not believing that we can need to be addressed as much.
Totally. All great points again. I think, kind of like you said, you're going to have to, at least as far as what we can do is, everyone's unique in the sense that, everyone's got individual differences. Everyone's grown up a little bit differently, meaning they have different parents, different genetics, different type of activities growing up, different type of work demands, and all those kind of create this clinical picture of what might be best practice for that patient, and why they're dealing with the injuries they're dealing with, and how that applies to whether walking in daily life or in the gym. And I think the success I've found is even just it's really just even tweaking things to that person that they may not have realized this about themselves, and people see big results that way.
Absolutely. Awareness is so huge.
Yeah.
And so, guys, it really comes down to the idea of preventative practices, with the feedback and guidance of someone who has the experience and the knowledge to go along with it. So not just guesswork, but more like, hey, this is based upon the things that I've learned and also the people that I've dealt with in the past. This is a great way to get us out of the pain that we're dealing with now, or to make sure that we're not going to deal with some of that pain down the road. So appreciate you tuning in. Again, this is David from CrossFit Northland. And
Jason Gearheart with Vital 6. And again, like you said, the ultimate goal is just to give you guys good practical advice and keep you healthy in the long term. So again, thank you for letting me guys talk to you guys today, and thank you for interviewing me.
Absolutely, dude.
Yes.
Peace.